If you have a soft spot for questionable fashion, high-energy soundtracks, and movies that lean heavily into stunt reels for storytelling, then man, oh man, is this the episode for you. We're strapping on our helmets, grabbing our tiny American flags, and taking a backflip into Rad. It's part Rocky, part Mountain Dew commercial, and a whole lot of BMX. We're about to go balls out to understand why this film has become a cult favorite. Is it the stunt work? The music? The sheer audacity of pretending that doing a freestyle trick mid-race is a winning strategy? We'll find out on this episode of The Regular Guy Movie Show.
Lights go down, let's hit play. Regular guys got something to say. The Regular Guy Movie Show, talking flicks. Here we go!
Welcome back to The Regular Guy Movie Show. Today we're talking about Rad, the 1986 BMX-fueled montage machine that inspired a generation of bike lovers and, quite frankly, probably baffled everybody else. I'm Seth, and joining me as always on this cinematic exploration are two of my favoriteest peoples in the whole wide world, my co-hosts, Justin and Brian. Gentlemen, are you ready to bicycle boogie?
I don't know if I'm ready to bicycle boogie, but I sure as hell will go ass sliding with you guys.
Oh, well, let's ramp it up. Let's go. Let's do it.
Well, before we dive deep into this film, tell me, when did you two watch Rad for the first time? And from what I understand, this is going to break a streak.
This is going to break a streak. This is a rare moment. This is a movie that I saw when I was 5 years old.
Whoa.
Nice.
This was a movie that my parents had taped onto a blank VHS, and I wore that thing out like it was my job. Rad was my anthem. And in my mind, I was the Cru Jones of the cul-de-sac.
All right. Did you have a BMX?
I did.
Yeah. What kind did you have?
Okay, here's the funny story about that. I had a friend of the family. His name was Philip, and he actually did race BMX.
Nice.
And he was like the guy that I looked up to because that's all I wanted to do when I was a kid. I just wanted to race BMX. And I had gotten a crate full of old bike parts.
Uh-huh.
And me and my dad had built a bike out of all these old bike parts. It was a Franken bike.
Yeah.
It had like nothing matched color wise. It was just thrown together, but it made me feel like a professional. And that's all I wanted at the time.
That's badass.
It was so cool.
Did it have pegs?
It did have pegs.
Oh, yeah.
And actually,
Lucky.
the pegs that I had, my dad had a guy who worked at the steel mill who made the pegs.
Custom pegs.
They were custom pegs. Yeah.
Wow.
Damn.
They were really cool. They were octagon shaped and they just kind of screwed onto the back where the wheel was, just like a regular peg would, but they weren't like pegs that you would go buy in a store. It was really, really custom.
Justin?
Yeah.
You're a little giddy right now.
I'm so giddy. I think we'll get into it, but this is by far this movie made my whole childhood.
All right. Well, Brian, I dare you to follow that up.
Okay, well, this is Brian, not Justin, and I watched this film for the first time last night.
Oh, man. Juxtaposition.
Okay, so I knew about the film. When I grew up, I knew about it. I had friends who watched it. I had friends who talked about nothing else but this movie. So I knew about it, and it was kind of like a personal, mission to not see it when I was a kid because everybody else did see it. And I'm like, well, I want to be different. But now I'm the same because I watched it. Seth, how about you? When did you first see it?
I watched it. This is never a movie we rented as a family, but I was a paper boy for a couple years.
Ooh,
jealous.
And, I lived, at least a portion of the Cru Jones lifestyle. I ran around on a BMX bike, tossing newspapers into people's yards, sometimes in the correct places, most often not. Living for the Christmas season whenever I would get inundated with chocolate-covered cherries. I don't know why, but that was like the tip everyone loved to give. But
that's an awful
I know,
tip.
but I every
cordials?
Christmas I would get like 6 boxes at minimum of chocolate covered cherries, and some people though would tip cash, which was great, but the chocolate covered cherries, that's what sticks in my mind. But the place we went to pick up our newspapers, and and wrap them up and rubber band them and all that. They also had video rentals. And so we had like this little area in the back where there was a TV, and they would let us like pop in VHS tapes. And Rad was often the video that was playing back there while we were wrapping up our newspapers and getting ready to go on our routes. Yeah, Rad was definitely part of my childhood. Not to the same extent, but yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely something that was a core memory.
Yeah. God, I love this movie.
Well, let's get into it.
Let's do it. So Brian, tell us all about what is Rad at its core.
Okay, Rad came out in 1986. Set in a small American town, Rad follows Cru Jones, a high school senior and gifted BMX rider. When a world-class BMX event called Hell Track is announced to take place in his hometown, with a $100,000 prize and a brand new Corvette for the winner. Now, Cru sees his shot at breaking out of his small-town life and doing what he loves. But there's a catch. The race is sponsored by corporate bigwigs who have already picked their golden boy to win. The system is rigged to keep local talent like Cru out.
Damn the man.
With the odds stacked against him, Cru must choose between taking the SATs, which would secure his college future, or risking it all to chase his BMX dreams.
Man.
Damn.
Yeah.
What a movie.
That hits hard.
And how did this film do in the box office?
Terrible. So the movie had a budget of around $3 million, and it grossed roughly $2 million.
Oh.
So it didn't recoup its own budget in theaters. But there are many reasons as to why it failed.
Okay, let's get into those.
Okay. All right. So 1986 was a big year for movies. Top Gun.
Yeah.
Ferris Bueller. Aliens.
I've heard of a few of those.
Yeah. They all came out about the same time. So Rad did not even get full movie theater run through the nation. Select theaters only. It was not marketed much, if at all. And it was kind of a footnote of the 1986 movie showings.
Well, also, I would imagine part of the issue was the target audience. Let's be real. This is not a movie made for adults when this film came out.
And not a movie made for everyone.
No, it's a very niche audience.
It is. But even though it didn't do good at the box office, didn't do good at the movies, Rad was a VHS blockbuster.
Hell yeah.
Get the pun there? So it Rad turned into a Saturday night sleepover special where, preteens and early teens, when they'd have sleepovers, oftentimes Rad was the movie of choice for that age group.
This film became a top 10 video rental for more than 2 years following its release.
That's amazing.
It's crazy to think that a film could stay on top for that long.
It's because it's badass.
Well, what really helped, though, was the cover art. It looked like, I remember the VHS cover looked exactly what the movie is.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, it was super cool. The bike up in the air doing a trick that nobody could do that always wanted to do it. It was like an instruction manual.
It was educational and recreational.
Almost more of a documentary than a movie.
Well, it's interesting because
see that,
the cinematographer of this movie, his previous experience was within the documentary world.
No kidding.
Yeah. And you can kind of see that style. Now, he had done some additional narrative work prior to this movie, but yeah, that documentary style really kind of picks it up. You see it throughout a lot with they had a lot of montage footage featuring bicycle pros, and they ate that up. And so I think they're kind of really then tapping into their roots to kind of, bring the grit of the BMX world to life.
Okay, so what's weird is that it was such a VHS hit, but when VHS got phased out and, kind of CDs came in. DVDs came in. This was never made as a DVD from VHS.
It was eventually, but it took a long time.
It did. It was made into a Blu-ray, a 4K Blu-ray, thanks to a group called Vinegar Syndrome. And it's all of the copies that they made sold out immediately.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
it's nostalgia, 100%.
People love this movie.
They
You know,
do.
there is a die-hard core all about Rad.
Yeah. I mean, even the main character, Bill Allen, he didn't do a lot of other roles after this, but he's huge. He's a BMX hero, and he goes to all these conventions, and like they still have conventions where he goes, and he's beloved because of it.
I would be willing to bet if you asked any BMX rider today about the movie Rad, they would glow.
Guaranteed.
Oh, yeah.
They all know about the movie. They've all seen it millions of times.
Yeah.
It is like the anthem of the BMX culture.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I believe the movie Rad set the foundation for things like the X Games.
I think it definitely brought BMX into the mainstream enough to where it could produce those things for sure.
And not just BMX, but some of the alternative sports.
Okay. I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
The people who wrote this movie were not BMX people. They did not grow up riding BMX. They were not out there racing. They saw the trend and they're like, you know what? All these people are riding BMX. That would make a really cool story. And they wrote a film basically because they saw the trend already growing.
Oh, sure. They're wanting to chase the money.
Directing this film was Hal Needham. He was a former stuntman. No BMX experience either. But he is known for a few other films you may have heard of. Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run.
Oh, two good ones.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically then, took his background really up to this point, or his claim to fame had been, car driving comedies, and then just dropped a couple wheels.
We only need 2 for this
Only
show.
need 2 for this one. But to get more into this, let's kind of prep things off and kick off the discussion with our characters. So Justin, who are we going to talk about first?
Well, first and foremost, we got Cru Jones, played by Bill Allen.
I started out as 1 in 1,000. Now it's 1 in 20. Now to give that up, I think that would be very self-destructive.
That's right, Cru. The underdog hero of the movie, a skilled BMX rider who goes against the odds to qualify for Hell Track.
What I like about his story, as the actor anyway, he was not known, and honestly he hasn't done a whole lot since, but the director of the film saw him in an episode of Hill Street Blues.
Really?
And it's like, that's the guy. And then basically called him up and said, hey, you want to be in this movie? And he's like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. What I find interesting, though, beyond that, he had to dye his hair for this role to match the stunt rider, which seems completely backwards.
It does, yeah.
I mean, the stunt rider could not be bothered to change his hair.
Right.
But the stunt double, his hair was fine. Let's keep it that way. But no, this guy, the actor, Bill Allen, had to change his hair to match the stunt double.
So
Interesting.
What's Bill Allen's natural hair color?
I think he's more of a blonde.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I figured he'd be bald by now. But to your point, I think a lot of the stunt riders were true BMX racers
they
at the
were.
time.
They were. They were
yeah.
legit BMX guys, either
Yeah.
in the freestyle world or the racing world. And yeah, I mean, but I think really they had to. They were dependent on those guys to make this movie work,
For sure.
which I think is what resulted in some of the decisions that came to follow.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
But yeah, after that, he did a few episodes of Family Ties, was in Amazing Stories, and now he works primarily as an acting coach. And like we mentioned, he occasionally appears at rad events.
It's interesting that he's an acting coach because I didn't. Sorry, Bill Allen. I didn't think you were that great of an actor.
Well, I hope he tells his students to not be mouth breathers, because all throughout this movie, all I saw was his mouth gaping open and mouth breathing.
I know it's a different time. If you would have just seen this guy, would you have said, "Oh, that's a senior in high school"?
No,
Because I think he could have passed for a 30-something.
I was gonna say 40.
Yeah.
but yeah, I get it.
I've got this. I've got this in my notes. It says Bill Allen looks like Mark Hamill's retarded cousin.
Oh, man. wasn't going to go there.
Yeah.
Oh, Bill.
Brian bringing the heat.
Fresh eyeballs.
Now, and I will give him credit that he did not have any prior professional BMX experience, but the shots that he did have to do a mild amount of BMX work, he was believable.
Yeah, he didn't. I mean, I wouldn't ever have thought that he didn't have any BMX experience, you know?
You know, in some of the scenes that he was in on the bike, one of the things that went through my mind was I would be exhausted.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
like
he was in pretty good shape.
whenever they, like, I know we can get to it later, but whenever he gets away from the cop, I won't go into too many details just yet, but he looks physically winded when he finally hits the road. Like, he's like, oh my God.
Yeah, he was sucking wind. Maybe
Right.
maybe that's why his mouth was always agape.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a hard gig.
Who's next?
Up next, we have Christian Hollings, played by Lori Loughlin.
You know, you're letting your body turn your head. See, if you let your head lead, your body will just follow naturally.
It's true. Yeah.
I could listen to Lori talk about that.
So Christian Hollings is a fellow BMX rider and Cru's love interest. She supports and inspires him throughout the movie. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think that there was a bit more to her story than what I just said there.
Yeah, it was what we were given was so thin.
It was.
Because first off, she kind of almost feels like an indentured servant.
She
to
does.
Mongoose.
Yeah, and to Duke Best for sure. And you know, he is parading her around as the best amateur female rider. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like she was like backseat to everybody else, and she knew it, and I don't think she was okay with it.
She is essentially Cru's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
She is.
She is Cru's Yoda. She's giving him the guidance, opening up the doors and helping build that confidence to make him into the athlete he needs to be. But man, she's only in this town for like a week.
Right. Yeah.
And within like a day, I mean, honestly, I thought Lori Loughlin, who, you know, my experience and probably most people's experience, Aunt Becky from Full House.
Aunt Becky. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely, you know, many thoughts in my formative years
Oh, yeah. She
were
was
devoted to Aunt Becky.
Oh, she was totally fap worthy.
Yeah. But her defining characteristic in this movie was resting come fuck me's.
For sure. Yeah.
It was constant.
I think she was the casted pretty face.
Well, she was definitely casted as a pretty face, and you know, had to have at least, it was like to balance out. It had to have an attractive female in the mix to kind of bring a little bit of extra interest in. But she constantly just looks at Cru like from the get go, from their first interaction
At the parade. Yeah, you're right.
with that come hither look. And I don't know, maybe that's just her face. Maybe it is. But
Man.
but I would come hither.
A face like that could get you in trouble.
And it sure could.
Yeah.
It sure could.
But outside of that,
Especially if you don't know you're doing it.
man, I don't think she had the charisma to work her way out of a wet paper bag.
It wasn't great.
No.
It really wasn't. She was fine. But I mean, everybody in this film was fine.
All right. So where'd we go next?
Next, we have Mrs. Jones, a.k.a. Cru's mom, played by Talia Shire.
You're willing to sacrifice building a solid future for a bicycle race. It's very self-destructive.
So Mrs. Jones is Cru's protective and practical mother who wants him to focus on academics over racing.
You know, I think we could have gone two directions with this character. Either one would have been very understandable. You could have gone with the mother who is dead set against this BMX racing and over my dead body.
Right.
Or you could have gone with the super supportive, like, yay, Cru, way to go. I'm so excited. And somehow they did neither.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what's crazy about this too is, and maybe maybe it was different in 1986, but if your kid's really good at something, why wouldn't you push them to be the best at it? Let Cru live his life.
That's right, Mom. Did she even get a name beyond just Cru's mom?
Just Mrs. Jones.
Mrs. Jones.
Mrs. Jones.
Did you know she's a school?
Jones?
Did you know she's a school teacher?
I did not.
Yeah.
In the movie,
Is that said in the movie?
I read it in my research that in the movie, Mrs. Jones, Cru's mother, a school teacher.
I did not know
When
that.
was
But
that?
it doesn't
ever come up?
It doesn't allude to it in the movie that I
No,
noticed.
not at all.
That's some.
It would make sense if she's a career educator to want to steer him, the
Okay.
education route.
Oh,
But it says that in the movie notes, but it does not portray that in the movie.
right. Yeah, that would have made way more sense
I
with why she was so dead set on the SAT.
I think it would have helped.
Yeah.
But even so, the SAT is being portrayed as this dire consequence that really isn't.
And also know your kid. If they're not college bound.
Well, Cru didn't
He
strike
could
me.
have been
He didn't
college
strike me as an
bound.
idiot.
Well, he did say the only thing I'm good at is riding this bike.
Well, that just sounds like a typical 18-year-old. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He couldn't have been 18 because
He was 17.
He's
Right,
17.
yeah. But still, I mean, give him a break. Push him to what he's good at. I mean, that's what you should do, is even as a teacher.
Yeah, but ultimately, this character had, it was just, she was barely there,
Yeah.
which was a shame because she was the biggest name in this movie.
She was.
I mean, this is just, this is in the midst of the Rocky franchise.
And tell me who she was.
Yo, Adrian.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. What other big movie was she in?
She was also in The Godfather.
That's right.
She was Connie Corleone. Did you also notice her name was at the beginning? It's like whenever they were going through like the production companies, it was Talia Film.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, so she
She was the producer,
she
apparently.
had some points in the film.
Yeah.
Well, you'd think they'd give her more than 2.5 minutes of screen time.
Right, exactly. Big name.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Next on the list is Burton Timmer, played by Ray Walston.
I'm beginning to see you as something I might have stepped in. And I don't like the smell of it.
So Ray Walston. How do I know that name?
Man, doesn't ring a bell.
Give me a hand with that.
Well played, sir. Mr. Hand.
Mr. Hand
From
from Fast Times
Fast
at
Times.
Ridgemont High.
Yeah, if when we started this podcast off, if I had to have the bingo card of who I thought was going to be our first two-time person to appear in a cast, Ray Walston would not have been on that card.
Same. And I had a real hard time not calling him Mr. Hand the entire time. I really did. So Burton Timmer is the local shop owner who becomes an ally to Cru and helps him in his fight against the corporate overlords of BMX.
All right, I got to ask some follow-up questions here because Burton was one of those characters I did not understand through this movie because he seemed to have a whole lot of influence in the creation of Hell Track.
Right.
He seemed to have a lot of money and skin in this game.
He sure did.
Yeah. This character made a turn halfway through this movie. Mm-hmm. And there was no backstory as to where it came from, why the turn happened. It was really weird.
What I think it came down to, they wrote this down like, these two greedy, crotchety old men, but never gave any thought about what they were greedy or crotchety about.
Right, exactly. We had to fill in the blanks ourselves.
And I mean, I'm pretty good at that. I've got so many blanks I have filled in for this movie.
Ditto. Ditto. Me too. And then I left some of them just completely blank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't worth it.
Right.
But Ray Walston, as we mentioned, appeared in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, also known for My Favorite Martian back in the day, and was a regular on the show Picket Fences, which I really always loved watching when I was a kid. Sadly passed away in 2001.
No, rest his soul.
Yep.
In a bit.
Who's next?
Up next, we have Duke Best, played by Jack Weston.
Think about it. TV cameras in every corner of the town. showing on network television. The spirit of Cochrane. And, of course, my bicycles.
Of course.
Of course. So Duke Best is the corporate villain, a sleazy executive who tries to fix the race in favor of his sponsored rider, and a character that I have come to the conclusion that Duke Best is drunk 99% of the time of this movie.
He was a lot of the time.
Which was weird because a lot of times your key villain in a movie has a little bit of panache to them.
Right.
This guy was frumpy.
He was super frumpy.
He was a bit bumbling.
Slimy.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of fit the bill, but not the typical stereotype that you would think.
You could have told me this character was a used car salesman. I would have believed it.
Totally.
Did you also notice that he had this weird, like, nasally snort in the back of his nose when he talked?
I did.
Like,
it wasn't annoying at all.
no.
Like, and he had like this weird blend between the Penguin from Batman with a bit of a Jimmy Stewart continental accent. Like, Mr. Hands, I'm never going to remember.
And a yinkle,
Yeah.
which is, a sniglet for the comb over.
Oh, man. Yeah, good old Duke.
Merry Christmas.
All right, so last on my list here is Bart Taylor, played by Bart Connor.
Little early with the act, aren't you? Could have showed some respect and at least wait till I was done dancing.
So Bart Taylor is the arrogant pro BMX rider sponsored by Duke Best and Cru's main rival on Hell Track.
He was a baddie.
Bad guy.
I always got to wonder, whenever a character and an actor have the same first name, is it intentional? Or, I mean, did they make the change? Like, was this guy originally scripted out to be Joe? But that was going to be too hard for this guy who is not an actor.
But I think this actor's story is pretty fantastic.
Absolutely. I mean, he is.
So please tell me, what else was Bart Connor in?
Bart Connor was in nothing.
Nothing.
However, Bart Connor was a 1984 Olympic gold medalist in gymnastics for both team and parallel bars. Rad was his acting debut, but he didn't pursue any acting gigs after.
He did marry, though, fellow Olympian Nadia Comaneci.
I got to meet Nadia Comaneci at one time.
Did you?
I did.
No way.
What a treat.
So I was actually working for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
She was throwing out the first pitch. And I was standing next to her, and she asked me how to throw a baseball.
You know, it's
wow.
very possible that Bart was there.
He could have been.
It was been about that time.
I could have been standing that close
You
to
could have
celebrity.
been that close to
Oh my
Bart
God.
Connor.
And I spent all my time talking to Nadia Comaneci instead. I am ashamed.
Yeah, if only you knew.
How dare you?
Yeah.
You-
But to finish the story, she gripped the baseball. It wasn't a perfect throw, but she got it down. She got it to the catcher, and she was so relieved.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Fun
What a
little,
neat story.
fun little snippet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How cool.
Like, I know this guy had like no acting experience prior to this. I mean, he was basically plucked right out the Olympics to be in this movie. I actually don't think he did that bad.
I agree with you. You know, for the role that he played, he didn't have a ton of dialogue.
No.
It was a little bit more based on his actions and not his words. Yeah, he did fine.
Yeah. So were there any other actors or characters in this movie that we want to talk about?
So when you look up this movie, it doesn't come across as like the main characters, but I thought it was odd that it didn't. Was Cru's two best friends in the movie, Luke and a girl that I never got her name.
I actually, you know what? I didn't realize that. I did have it in my notes. I think her name is Beaver.
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 So,
Beaver and Luke.
So Luke and Beaver. That sounds like a child's cartoon.
It absolutely does.
There is one character in the movie who may be my favorite.
Yeah.
Who's that?
That was Sergeant Smith.
Sergeant Smith.
Sergeant
Absolutely.
Smith.
Now, he was played by a guy named
Interesting.
H.B. Haggerty.
You know what the HB stands for?
Nope.
Hard boiled.
Excuse me?
Up.
I'm serious. That's what the HB stands for.
Hard-boiled Haggerty?
Yeah.
It's because his head looked like a
He
hard-boiled
was a
egg?
professional wrestler.
Oh, no way.
Really? I recognized him.
I mean, that makes more sense.
It absolutely does. Oh,
But yeah,
that's
he was trying
amazing.
to class it up and be professional and just abbreviated the HB. But yeah, that was his stage name, Hard Boiled Haggerty.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy to know that. He was my favorite guy in this movie.
Oh, he was great.
He was.
He really was. I actually am going to also throw out kudos to Bart's sidekicks, the twins.
Oh, geez. Rod and Rex.
Rod and Rex.
The twins.
Yeah. Interesting fact about those two.
Okay.
They went on to become screenwriters.
No kidding.
Wrote some really damn good horror movies, including The Conjuring.
Really?
Yeah.
Would have never guessed that.
No, I know. And you know, because otherwise they're like comic relief in the movie, and not like intentional comic relief. Like it's kind of like the movie Bring It On. It's funny, but not because it meant to be.
So let me ask you this. Did you actually watch Bring It On?
It's already been rotten.
Please reach into your wallet, pull out your man card, and hand it over.
I have a 12-year-old daughter who dances and you know wanted to watch it, and I'm a nice dad.
I'm going to be honest with you. I saw that a long time before I had kids.
I'm going to go on record and say I've never seen the movie.
Well, good for you, O'Brien.
I'm just an uncultured swine. Kudos to you guys for watching Bring It On.
You know, of all the movies that I have not seen, that's the one that I've seen.
I can't tell you how funny I think that is.
Oh. You know,
I've not seen RoboCop.
I've seen Bring It On.
No, not only have I seen it, but I quoted a line from it.
In fairness, that line was in the trailer.
That's true.
You didn't have to see the movie to see that line. But yeah, I need backstory. How is it that you saw Bring It On, but not RoboCop?
I don't know. I can't even tell. There's no good story for it. Like there's nothing entertaining about it. It's just.
So is it good? Should I see it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's not good. I didn't enjoy it, but I've seen it.
No, it's not bad.
It's just like, okay, so put it in every. I know it's not necessarily a rom-com. Is it a rom-com?
I mean, not really.
Borderline. Put it in every.
It's a teen comedy more than anything.
It's every rom-com that you've ever dreaded seeing, and then you saw it, and you're like, well, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Is it better than Rad?
The acting.
Honestly,
is
here's the thing. It's probably the cheerleading version of Rad.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Nice little cheerleading underdog story. Yeah.
That's about it.
Good deal.
So let's go ahead and dive into the scenes from this movie. And one of the things you will not be able to just avert your eyes from if you watch this movie is the sheer amount of montages. And this movie starts it off strong with about 4 minutes of BMX riders doing stunts and various different things during the title sequence.
Yeah, I mean, they played the entirety of the song "Break the Ice," which it's a good song.
It wasn't a bad song.
And I'm going to be honest with you. Still watching this today, and like, mind you, like the nostalgia effect really has a grip on me here. The opening credits with "Break the Ice" playing with all these guys doing all the BMX tricks I could never do still gets me pretty amped up.
It set the tone and basically said, hey, get ready for a shit ton of BMX stuff.
Yeah.
Or you could say, instead of BMX stuff, you could say BMX awesomeness, because that's what came after.
Okay, so this opening montage, it went on.
Would you say it was rad?
It was rad and unapologetic.
that it was. I'll agree with you there. Now this first montage with this song and all the stunts going on, it was really cool, and it got me jazzed up for the movie for about the first 30 seconds.
Sure.
The next 4.5 minutes,
Yeah.
it was kind of like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Can we fast forward?
Yeah.
Like, let's get to the meat and taters.
Right.
Yeah. I
Right.
get
So
it.
it set the tone, But man, it took its time.
It sure did.
Yeah, and let me bring it up here because I actually did go through this movie with a stopwatch. 3 minutes and 52 seconds spent on the opening montage.
That's a long opening credit roll.
4.42% of the entire movie
That's
was just on the opening montage.
That's a lot.
that is a bunch.
It was a good amount.
That's a percent.
Yeah. But if you're into that kind of thing, I could see how this could wet your whistle.
I mean, I didn't hate it, but I also was like, we could get me to the story.
Yeah. Well, okay, let me ask you. In fairness, you're saying that now. When you first watched this movie,
When I was 5,
I mean, I guess let's say 5 through 13-year-old Justin. What was your thoughts about this?
no complaints.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. This was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, you're probably like, fuck plot.
And I was
Give me wheel bouncing.
I was like, I want to try these things in my driveway and fail horribly and bust my knee open. And I did, and it was fine. I recovered, and I tried again, and still failed.
You know, for me, when I watched this movie, as I mentioned, was a Paperboy. So what I loved was that, again, another montage, but the action sequence that we set to music, but the paper delivering, which shortly followed up. Cru and his buddies are going all over the place, delivering these papers, tossing them here, handing people, tossing them onto a rowboat, doing all the things. But there was a moment that I'm like, come on now, where one of his buddy Luke flies over a fence, I don't know how, and lands on a woman's car, but she is completely oblivious.
She has no clue.
No clue that a teenage boy just landed on the hood of her car.
Right. And you know what I love the most about that scene? Is when he stands up and he grabs his head and shakes it off. He goes, "Ooh, gnarly."
You know, that part of the movie where they were delivering the papers reminded me of the video game Paperboy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you, like, that's all I wanted as a kid. And in my town, we didn't have Paperboys. Like, that wasn't a thing, but that's all I wanted, so I could do cool tricks and have that song that they played multiple times throughout this movie. And I don't know if you realize it, but that song lived in my head when I would ride my bike as a kid. And it was just every time I would pedal, that song was in my head. And I was like, man, I'm on my paper route.
That's neat.
But is it rad?
It's so rad to me.
Not yet, but we're going to get there. we're pedaling our way towards it.
In general, it seems like these bikes had to be magical, though.
Absolutely.
Because they are flying through the air over cars, over people, all without the aid of any form of visible ramp.
Kind of. I saw a few.
But it's just like, woof.
Right, yeah.
You know, I mean, did they got freaking ET sitting on their handlebars?
That'd be neat.
But anyway, so they deliver all the papers, and what also one of these little moments towards the end of that sequence where Cru finishes up his route, he looks at the clock, says, "Oh," like you can see he is trying, like this is all a race to him. Everything about it for him is racing.
Yeah,
and there's a woman who appears in the scene, Mrs. Gray, who will pop up many times throughout this movie, kind of like that sage person.
Yeah,
who's just there at the right moment. And she's like, "Oh, better luck next time."
Yeah, she's a real sweetheart.
She is. She's a lovely lady.
She thinks Cru's a sweetheart.
She does.
She says more than once, "He's such a nice young man."
I don't think that was Mrs. Gray.
Oh,
that's the other lady.
Oh, it's the other lady.
Yeah,
it's the lady with the cake in the oven.
Oh, the one in the stands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who tells Cru's mom that?
Yeah,
but
he's
she
such
is.
a nice boy.
But Mrs. Gray is a champion of Cru.
She is. Yeah.
Half the town seems to be.
Cru has a lot of champions.
Yeah. The town loves him.
Yeah.
Except for the guy he works with at the diner.
Blob.
Yeah, that's the guy.
The name's Bob, not Blob, smartass.
I told you. We also learn very early in this film about the plans to have Hell Track, the premier BMX event in this town of Cochrane. Actually, I want to take a moment to talk about Cochrane. Because Cochrane, they never say where it is, but they really want you to think it's in the United States.
Right.
Given by the sheer number of American flags all over the place. There's big ones behind the background at the board, city council, little ones being waved at the parade scenes. They're everywhere.
But where was the town actually?
It was in Alberta, Canada.
It was.
Okay. All right.
Trying a little too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it went, there's even one point where someone comes running into the restaurant where Cru works at. And man, that Canadian accent was really
you think, eh?
It's like, hey, Cru, you going to run in the race, eh?
Hey, Justin. Here comes Seth with his accents.
That didn't really sound that different than the accent I was using last week. For one. Apparently my Canadian and my Colombian accents are very similar.
All of my accents are the same.
They both start with the letter C. You're good. They're close. Yeah.
E. So everyone now is all, the people are the townspeople are now motivated. There's Hell Tracks here. Duke is basically saying, we're going to bring this here. And I believe it is Mrs. Gray again, kind of speaks up. Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, that's great. You're bringing all the pros, but what about our kids?
Yeah. Not to put a damper on the spirit of things, but I wonder how our kids are going to feel when hundreds of outside youngsters take over their town and they're not allowed to race in their own backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is great.
That's hard hitting.
It is.
I thought that was cool for her to bring up. It kind of came out of left field.
Well, I don't know if it came out of left field because this is right after, she talks to Cru and she knows that Cru is a badass on the bike. And, maybe she had Cru in mind right from the get-go.
Yeah. So you think maybe she made that comment for his benefit?
I'm going to throw it out here. I think there may have been a little bit of Mrs. Robinson kind of relationship there. little May, November kind of thing. At least maybe she was hoping there might be. I don't know.
He delivers that paper real good.
Real good. Like I said, there are holes. I filled them in my own mind.
So I could tell, it was from the minute you met Duke Best.
Oh, yeah.
You just knew that this guy was a shady character.
Oh, slime ball. Yep.
Super shady shyster.
Absolutely.
But in his response, he's got a plan.
We will hold a
Kinda.
qualifying race. And I will put up $10,000 for any local youth who can qualify and run in Hell Track, regardless of whether or not he wins Hell Track.
Then there's a moment there during that little thing that I loved where he's looking over to his little henchman toady, Elliot. And he's like, we will give up. And Elliot's like mouthing 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
And,
he's
like, no. It's a 10,000.
But he also had to refer to Elliot just to remember qualifying race.
Yeah.
We'll hold
qualifying race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Duke Best was a shithead.
He sucked. But this now opens the door because in addition to all the pros who are now swooping in on Cochrane, local folks, the hard-working, salt of the earth folks from Cochrane can now participate in Hell Track.
Maybe.
I mean, they got to qualify.
Sure.
Yeah.
This Bart dude, he ain't so awesome. What do you think, Cru? I don't know. It's gonna take a radical miracle to beat this guy.
I love it when movies reference their own name.
They did that a ton in this one, didn't they?
A lot.
Yeah. And also in the scene was Kix cereal. Yeah. And Kix cereal is garbage.
Oh, I have that in my notes.
Yeah.
I wrote down, I think it was the first note that I made. Yep. Kicks is bullshit.
Well, what makes it great, they're eating cereal while wearing bicycle gloves.
They sure are. They never take them off.
Never.
It's like, you never know when you're going to have to get on that bike and ride with some serious gloves.
Oh, the accessories were fantastic.
Yeah.
Like the red band.
The
that Cru
bandana, yeah.
would wear around his left leg. And then when he gets on his bike, he moves it down to keep his pant leg from getting caught in the chain.
Yeah. That actually happened to me.
Yeah.
Whenever it was my freshman year, we went out to California to visit a buddy's sister, and we rented bikes out there, and my pant leg got stuck in the chain and ripped it. And it was like that moment where you're like, that's why Cru wore that.
But we also, very quickly here, we get introduced to one of your favorite characters, Brian, who you mentioned, Sergeant Smith.
Love the guy.
Smith.
HB.
And he shows up, and they're like, Sergeant Smith wants to play. and at first, you don't know what to make of what's going on here. You see a cop on a motorcycle outside of this little clubhouse, keep out kind of building. And you think like maybe they're in trouble or maybe there's an issue, but I don't know. What it seemed like there was a very interesting dynamic going on here.
At first, the initial time we're introduced to Sergeant Smith, when Cru and his friends leave the clubhouse, it seemed initially like he was after the kids.
Right.
But the conclusion of that scene changed my mind.
Mm-hmm. Part of it, I think, what also throws it off is when you look at Sergeant Smith, he has the look of a stereotypical comic book / video game villain.
Yes.
Yeah, he does.
There's just something about him. It's like
the bald head and the mustache.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, that guy, you don't want to mess with that guy.
Those aviator sunglasses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But man, there was just something, because he's chasing after the kids. They go through a lumber yard. Cru does things that don't adhere to either the laws of physics
right.
or gravity. And when it comes down to the end, it's almost becomes like a Mentos commercial where it's like, oh, you darn kid, you got me.
Yeah, the fresh maker.
Right. So at the end of that scene, they almost exchange a look that is respect.
Yeah. It's like, hey, better luck tomorrow, buddy.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get me tomorrow. But he Cru catches up with it with his friends, Beaver and Luke.
Beaver. I can't unhear it now.
I tell you what, let me double check because that's maybe I'm wrong. Let me get IMDb up here. I don't know. IMDb doesn't even show this person, so maybe it's not Beaver. Maybe was it Becky?
Where did you
maybe
pull Beaver from?
I don't know. Like I said, I thought I heard it, and that's when I wrote it down. Maybe I'm just I'm not very quick with the keys, so maybe I just mistyped, or maybe it auto-corrected. Maybe it was Becky.
Well, that begs a question too. Why does Becky auto-correct a beaver on your phone?
I don't know.
That answers a lot.
So it catches up to Luke and Becky, and out of breath, having a good time though. Just beat Sergeant Smith, and then this weird offer comes up.
Hey, dude, we're going ass sliding. You want to come? No, ass sliding with you guys? I wouldn't wait for my ass sliding with somebody special, you know?
Like who, Katie?
Well, maybe.
Ass sliding.
Ass sliding, yeah. He only does it with people that are special.
Which you should, honestly. You should really only ass slide with people you care about.
Right.
So you don't want to be too casual with the ass sliding.
No, absolutely not. Find somebody you love and ass slide with them.
Yeah.
Don't just go ass sliding with anybody.
No.
So at
and
first,
even then, make sure you got to be safe.
Yeah, be safe with your ass sliding.
At first, when I heard the reference, I thought, is that a prison term? I wasn't quite sure, but we find out later in the movie what ass sliding really is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But before we get to that point, Cru goes home and talks to mom. Her big issue with him racing in this is that it's on the same day as his the makeup SAT.
Right.
Isn't this the day you're supposed to make up your SATs?
I know, Mom, but
But what? You always wanted to go to college. That's been the plan.
this is a very important race. Would you look at the stakes here? Besides, I really think I can get this one. I think I've got a chance.
It's never explained, though, why he's making up the SAT.
Yeah, it doesn't say why he missed the first one.
We do learn throughout the film that Cru's father had influence in his life. It basically set him on the path to being on this BMX path. We know he died. We don't know when he died.
Right.
And again, kind of filling in those holes for the movie that they didn't fill in for us. I kind of wonder maybe did his dad pass away fairly recently? You know, is that why he didn't make the SAT the first time?
Could have been, or maybe he failed it the first time, and it wasn't a score good enough to get into the school that his dad wanted him to go to. Right,
Yeah.
like that could have been another hole that we could have filled in.
Mom is not really on board with this whole hell track thing.
No.
But hell track is coming to town, and they come to town with a parade.
They do. They do. They have an introductory parade into the town of Cochrane. Here we are.
And it does provide us some introduction to the other characters who are going to be central to this plot, including Bart.
Hell track in this hick town. They've got to be kidding. This is a joke.
Who, at least at this point, doesn't seem to care for the town and is definitely a numero douchebag.
For sure.
Yep.
What I thought was really funny about this whole parade scene, my favorite part of this is Bart stops the entire parade to get out of the car and go talk to Christian and get rejected fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So right before that, there was some commentary between, we'll say Cru and Luke and either Becky or Beaver, who there was a guy riding his bike on top of a semi-truck trailer.
Oh, my favorite part of the parade.
And she was like, man, if somebody makes a sudden stop, that guy's history. So Bart stops the entire parade.
That would have been a sudden stop.
And I have to wonder, did the guy riding on top of the semi fall off at that point? Like, they didn't show it. They didn't revisit it.
They could have just thrown in a little bit of sound effect. Like,
right. It would have been so nice.
You know what? Tell you what. I wonder now. Because there was a scene. This is way later in the movie.
Right before the final race.
At Hell Track.
Yep.
Where Cru is walking along and there's someone who has a cast like, hey, Cru, want to sign my cast? And, this is clearly a BMX guy because he's like, don't let those guys intimidate you. They're just getting under your skin. So that's a guy.
Oh, my God.
And I wonder.
I got to go back and watch it again
I
to see if it's the same
point,
guy.
I mean, you can't see. He's got a helmet on it right on top of the truck.
But they said his name.
Did they?
They did. Because she was like, oh, my God. Like Beaver was like, oh, my God, he's so dreamy or whatever. I got to go back and watch it.
We're just going to call her Beaver.
We're just going to call her Beaver.
It doesn't matter.
I'd rather call her Beaver than Becky. That's way better.
I like it way better.
So that could be the guy.
It could be the guy. Maybe he did fly off the truck because Bart was a dick and just hit the brakes, not thinking about there was a guy riding on top of a box truck 2 cars back.
Right. Yeah. And the worst part about that is when he gets rejected, he comes back to the car and he's like, I need to talk to Duke because I don't think Christian really fits in with the team anymore.
I'm sure he's not used to being rejected.
Right. Yeah. Right. But he's just going to boot her off because he got rejected. That's awful.
There's another part when he jumps out during the parade where he goes and mingles with the 2 girls in the crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
And he signs autograph for them. And one of them was okay looking. The other one was a bit of a woofer.
Was that the one with no bra on? Yeah, I saw that.
So
even the no bra,
there was a lot.
Save that.
In general, there was just a shit ton of protruding nipples in this movie.
There were, and there was a severe lack of, I don't know, attractive people.
I'm not going to go that, but There were some wardrobe choices that could have used some more padding. How about that? Sure. Also during this parade, we have a moment where Cru saves the day for this one woman who, again, a character gets no name.
Yeah.
She's in a rush to get home because she's got a cake in the oven.
She's got a cake in the oven.
And she's like, young man, is there anything you can do to help me? And like he pulls a stop to the parade again. Who knows? Maybe this is where the guy falls off the box
That
truck
could have been. That was more sudden.
and lets the lady, come through. So Cru's a true hero for getting her back before she burned her house down. But this is also the first moment where Cru and Christian interact.
Yeah.
Christian's driving the truck. Cru stops her, and again, immediately from the first get-go, Christian is giving him the come hithers. There's these eyes. It's this like penetrates the scene. It's like, I will do you right now.
She is immediately smitten.
Yeah.
I mean, Cru's a good looking guy.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's okay.
Written into the story.
With dyed hair.
The other thing that stood out to me at the parade, there was an interaction between Burton and Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Which didn't really help explain anything in their relationship at all. But it's worth throwing out there because it kind of, at least at this point, establishes their symbiotic toxic relationship.
Oh, boy, this is some parade, Burton, some parade.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to lead us to a lot of profit.
It's exactly what we're counting on.
What? Hell of a parade. It's going to lead us to a lot of profit.
I feel like Burton is very town centric. And he's wanting to make money with his store. And maybe he thinks bringing these people in and having all these people in the town will really increase sales and give his store much more business.
Which would happen regardless of who wins the race.
Yeah,
but the farther we get
definitely.
into this
Yeah.
movie, the more it's clear that his profit depends upon Duke getting what Duke wants.
Which doesn't get explained and is a huge question mark for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also a question mark for me, though. Why do they have a dance?
Because it's the 80s.
I know it's the 80s, and I know they love their dance scenes.
Everybody has a dance.
But you have, come on, seriously, you're having this BMX event coming to town, and you're having all these things going on, and to get people involved, you have a school dance. I mean,
Yeah, it's really odd. I mean, the entire thing was just, it didn't add to the story. Like, there was nothing in there that was like, this makes sense to the progression of the story whatsoever.
No.
And at the beginning of the dance, like, everybody's in there, they're dancing, having a good old time. And then you have weirdo loner Cru doing bike tricks outside the dance.
And not just
by himself.
Not just weirdo loner Cru. It's weirdo loner Cru wearing pants with rhinestone emblazonments.
They're like windbreaker pants.
Yeah, windbreaker pants with rhinestone enhancements.
But then Christian's like, I could top that.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to go get my bike and we can be weirdo loners together.
Yeah. But back within the dance, though, there's a few things I want to talk about.
Okay, sure.
Rex and Rod.
Oh, my.
Wearing, oh my God, I don't even know how you could even describe them. They're like these.
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah.
I put down the Mongoose twins. What the hell are they wearing? Like sci-fi movie costume rejects, Rod and Rex embroidered on it.
They were like jumpsuits. They reminded me, it was like some kind of alien invasion. Like if you told me they were like cyborgs,
right,
or
that
something
would
like that,
make sense.
I would have said, okay, these are the villain. Like they really looked like they were something from another planet.
Yeah,
it gave me Star Trek vibes.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
yes,
like
absolutely.
they're the baddies on the planet that's getting visited. And
where's your ray gun?
Yeah,
where's it at, Rod and Rex?
But then
beam me out of here, Scotty.
But the other thing, Number one, it didn't help that both of these people looked like Michael Ian Black. And not they're twins, so you have two Michael Ian Blacks,
Right.
who were basically doing their own rendition of Night at the Roxbury. You know, and it's just so cringy. And then all the women who you see are in the tiger strip tight things and lots of nipples everywhere and all the dance moves. And it's like, I know this is the 1980s, but come on.
Did you also notice that Rex or Rod, one or the other, I couldn't tell, just reached out and grabbed some girl and kissed her? Like unprompted. She didn't. I don't know if she wanted it or not. And then another girl was like, "Oh, kiss me next." And then another girl was like, "Me too."
Yeah, they were all in line.
Like, it was just a real bizarre interaction.
I will say, though, as a refreshing change from so many other movies we've watched as part of the show.
Yeah, and there was no rape.
This was the most rapey moment. At least it was creepy, but it was completely consensual. But ultimately, my note here is, this scene must be the most 80s thing I have ever seen. Because between the music, the costumes, the synchronized dance moves.
Yeah. I mean, who knew that BMX riders were so good at choreography?
Well, it only gets better from here, though. Because following this, we get the bicycle boogie.
No, we do.
Between Christian and Cru.
That went on way too long.
It did. It was another one where they did the entire length of the song.
Yeah.
And you could have really edited it down to 30 seconds.
So we have Send Me an Angel.
By Real Life.
By Real Life.
I mean,
which is a song that makes several other appearances throughout the 1980s. It also makes an appearance in Teen Wolf 2, as well as The Wizard, starring Fred Savage.
Okay, so yeah, the Top Run movies.
I mean,
and yeah, so we have the bicycle boogie scene, and I'll only bring it up here. Runs 3 minutes and 35 seconds.
That's a lot of minutes and seconds.
And so within this scene, we have Christian and Cru doing a variety of tricks in the gymnasium floor, set to, Send Me an Angel.
On their bikes.
Right now. On their bikes. And you never see Christian, like you never see Lori Loughlin's face.
Right.
In a shot that goes where you actually see the bike at the same time.
Right. Yeah, it's not her.
No. And everything you see with her riding, like a full body shot of her riding a bike, is from the back.
Mm-hmm.
And the wig and the hair does not match. And you can tell.
Right.
That's a dude.
Yeah, it is a dude.
It is a dude. So yeah, her stunt double for the bike stunts was a dude in a wig. Okay, so she was wearing this little tight kind of bodysuit.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some moments where the stunts were going on where that butt was sticking right up out there. And I was looking at the butt and I'm going, I don't think that's hers. So that's when I stopped looking at butts during the scene.
That's a dude butt.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm staring. I'm looking for panty lines on dude butts.
To really just kind of summarize the entire scene.
Well, it's basically Footloose, but with handlebars.
I said whether it's a people dance or a bike dance, the entire scene is just bizarre. It doesn't make sense.
And cringy.
It's super cringy.
It is super cringy.
My first thought is like, man, that school janitor is going to be fucking pissed.
Right? Yeah. Rubber tires on the gym floor.
Yeah. Who's going to buff that out?
You couldn't wear shoes with dark soles.
Exactly.
On the gym floor.
No.
But also Duke got real hammered.
Oh, yeah.
At that.
Yeah.
That dance.
And I'll tell you what, there was actually another moment here that's worth discussing. Because while you have all the youth doing their youthful things, you have the old curmudgeons who are in here in the background, including the mayor of the town, who actually asked Burton, and I was hoping at this moment might get some kind of insight about what Burton's deal is, but I don't know if we really did.
Don't take this the wrong way, Burton, but what's all your interest in this bicycle stuff?
A good feeling, Mr. Mayor. A good feeling.
A good feeling, Mr. Mayor. Good feeling for what?
Right. Yeah, it doesn't answer any of the business questions.
Did any of you understand why also, after everyone started cheering and clapping and they're like surrounding each of them, Why did Cru?
Oh, he bolted out of there.
He did.
Like
and
he,
why?
He like ran out of there like he just pissed his pants.
Right.
And didn't want anyone to see.
Why? What happened in there that was so upsetting to him to make him run off?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought maybe he was intimidated.
Maybe.
Like I just did this with this really beautiful girl and everyone's clapping and this is my hometown. This is weird. I'm out of here.
Maybe. Crazy idea here.
Uh-huh.
Maybe he had a boner.
You telling me his BMX bike had its own kickstand?
Yeah.
I mean, if
again, filling holes in my mind.
Here's the thing, though, Cru. The windbreaker pants you're wearing, nobody could see it anyway. So just stay and enjoy the accolades. Like everybody's excited for you at this point.
I mean, it really was his coming out party. I mean, he was the world of BMX, but then Cochran were like all abuzz. Like, who is this guy? Including Duke and his toadies. But regardless, Cru makes his escape. And then, seemingly the next day, he's out practicing, his bike flipping stuff with Beaver and Luke.
Good old Beav.
And who just happens to be there to give him tips along the way? Christian.
She's a pro.
Yeah, but why? Where did you come from, Christian? You just thought you'd show up?
Oh my God.
Well, did you notice there were a ton of people watching them practice?
Wait a minute.
There were a lot of people there.
There weren't there. The bike track thing was right next to the pool.
Well, a lot of people were at the pool, turned around watching them practice.
Including like the two, mall rat blonde chicks who pop up everywhere. They were there, creepily staring.
So I'm going to be honest with you. This kind of hurts my soul a little bit because I didn't realize this until you just said it. He bolted from the dance.
Yeah, he split.
The next morning, he's out there practicing, and Christian's right there. And it's not until after he lands this backflip that they're walking their bikes together, and she's like, "Why'd you take off so fast?"
Oh, no, yeah.
They had no conversations
None.
between this time. That hurts my soul.
Is it like a clinic kind of thing?
She's also a BMX rider. She's the #1 rated female BMX rider in the nation.
That's true.
And so she's going to show up at this jankety, DIY skate park or
maybe it's
BMX park, and
maybe it's the only place in that town to get a little practice in.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, it is Cochran.
Yeah.
Wherever that is. But no, yeah, like I didn't even think about that. That's crazy.
Or she wanted to see him again, and she thought maybe he'd be there.
So she's a stalker.
That's got to be the only reason. And like, I get it. Like, yeah, I got to find you because I got to find out why you
left so quickly.
Like, is it just a matter of like she's hot and can't handle the ego, damage of someone running off on her?
Right,
well, this is another blank that we have to fill in with our own imagination.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I was never a hot teenage girl, so I don't know what that would feel like. So I'll take your word.
I know what a hot female.
Sorry, try that again.
I know what a hot female girl feels like.
When
I kiss, but I don't tell.
Long time ago, please.
Yes, I was a teenager too.
Very good.
Yes,
good,
it was.
good.
Yeah.
So a long time ago, whenever he was trying to do this ramp, land this trick, there's mattresses all over the place. And Christian comes over and she's like, you got to move these mattresses. If you land it, you're still going to wipe out. Doesn't matter. Like, you have to. She tells him, like, no guts, no glory. Like, you got to do this. And he goes to the end of the plywood and he rides it and he flips over, but he over rotates.
No shit.
Because
that's what he says.
What follows.
Yeah.
He over rotated. No
shit.
And I remember being a kid and hearing that, and I was like, Cru is the fucking coolest. Like, just like, everything about him was so cool. But he does. He lands it, right? Like, on the second try, he lands this thing. He does the backflip, which obviously comes back and, hell track later on. But yeah, that's when they go and they walk their bikes on the highway.
Yeah.
And that's when she finally asks, like, what happened to you last night? You know, like a weird conversation to have after he just left. You showed up unannounced, gave some advice. It worked. And now we're walking bikes on the highway.
As any smitten young teen might, his course of action at this point would be nothing else than to take his love interest ass sliding.
This is where we find out.
This is where we find out what ass sliding is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is also where you find out that Christian is special.
In which way?
Because Cru will only go ass sliding with someone who's special.
Yeah. He's all in.
He won't go with Luke and Beaver.
But with Christian, let's
Christian,
slide that ass.
It was Katie, but Katie's out. She wanted nothing to do with him because, he was going to pick her up on his bike. Now Christian is special.
In a way, and I didn't even think about it until you just said that.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, really, it's a more modern day take on Romeo and Juliet. Romeo did not start that play off in love with Juliet. He was all about Rosaline.
That's true.
Until Juliet came in, and then suddenly he was balls out.
I mean, couldn't you just say Romeo's fickle?
There's
every young man.
There's one major distinction between that comparison, which is a bit unfortunate. Cru and Christian don't die at the end of this.
Wait, are you saying it's unfortunate that they don't?
Read into it what you will.
But anyway, so this is where one of those movie magic kind of things. They go ass sliding, which for those who haven't seen the movie, there is this concrete chute going down a hillside into a lake.
Homemade water slide, kind of.
I mean, it's not homemade. It's there. It's some form of sewage. There's no clear explanation what it is, but it's some kind of
I would assume like a rainwater runoff, but it's also not raining. So why is the water running?
Well, I mean, I don't know. The other thing I thought, and I have no idea, because there is a lumber yard at the beginning of the movie with a lot of raw cut lumber stacked up. Maybe that historically has been some way to move cut trees down into the lake where it could easily be floated to the next one. But anyway, so
logging or whatever.
There's some form of concrete flume that they are riding down multiple times. Though what's weird to me is every time they go down it, the next time they even though they've been in a lake,
they're dry.
They're dry.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Like me personally, being wet when I don't want to be,
that sucks.
Is terrible.
Yeah,
it's miserable. And being wet in your street clothes,
horrible.
My God, like having wet shoes for the rest of the day. That's all I could think about.
That's the worst part. It's the shoes.
That's all I could think about after this. It's like, how could you even be comfortable?
I think it's the wet underwear.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah,
that's awful.
But in typical in this kind of movie, they've known each other at this point for maybe a grand total of 12 hours. But they're acting like they're the loves of each other's lives.
Yeah.
Hey, love at first sight's a real thing.
It's fucking gross. Come on. Get over yourselves, you dumb, stupid teens. That's not what love is.
No.
I mean, ass sliding could be love. Have you been ass sliding?
No.
Then you can't say for
That's
certain.
true.
Well, I think maybe in some environments, ass sliding is the definition of love, but not in Cochrane.
Not in Cochrane.
Or Cochrane.
No ass sliding in Cochrane.
No. Didn't feel that one at all. Didn't land. So let's move on. We've slid our asses, and we've slid our asses right into qualifiers for Hell Track, which, as has been explained earlier in the film, local folks would have the chance to compete in the qualifiers.
The qualifying race is my absolute favorite part of this movie.
Okay.
I could dump the rest of it and just cut that one section of the movie out and watch it on repeat over and over and over. Every heat, I could watch it over and over.
Well, it takes 6 minutes and 17 seconds.
It's amazing. Thunder in Your Heart playing. Oh my God. What a great song. All that action, the intensity of the stakes that are going on. It reminds me of being little on that Frankenbike that I had. This is all I thought about. This is it. This is all I dreamed about, was just racing. And this was like qualifying for the big one. And it was like in your hometown. And like, what if we had a race in Granite City, Illinois, and I could like be really good at it because that's where I live. And I knew all the ins and outs. And like, this was the scene that made the entire movie for me. Like, I could cut out the rest of the entire movie and only have this and be happy.
I can understand that, because when I watched this, obviously for the first time, and I saw that, I got a real charge out of that.
Yeah.
I was vested. I was leaned forward. I was not on the edge of my seat, but metaphorically so. And I was really vested in what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that.
A good part of the movie.
I can only imagine how I would feel if I was 13 seeing that.
I would take this over the actual Hell Track race.
Yeah. Yeah. This was
fun.
cooler.
But the issue I have with the qualifiers is that Cru is a straight up dirty motherfucking cheater. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This dude cheated his ass off. He pulled shortcuts. He went completely off track. He exhibited behaviors that would normally be reserved for the biggest goddamn villain. But he received zero consequence and was still treated throughout the rest of the movie as if he is the great hero. He's a great racer. He works really hard. No, you cut corners, you douche.
He cut corners to make it to Hell Track for sure.
Yeah.
But then
I mean, are you refuting my point? I don't. Where do you have more thoughts?
I do, but I don't want to give away Hell Track yet.
I was not convinced that the little shortcuts you see him take were illegal or egregious.
What little? He took his own path down a hill and then cut back into the track.
But one time it didn't work.
No, one time it didn't work and he crashed.
And he got hit by another bike.
Yeah, I'm sure it didn't feel great. But he basically created his own path. Now, I don't know. I am not an expert BMX racer. But when you have a track that is laid out with clearly visible tape, I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm assuming too much, but I would think you should be keeping your bike between the friggin' lines.
Okay, so are you saying that the guys who fell off and went in the lake should be disqualified and they can't get back up and then go?
If you come back on, it's kind of like golf. If you go out of bounds, you put yourself back in bounds.
Well, he went out of bounds and came back in.
He created his own track.
But who's to say? That's subjective.
If that's all it is, it's all a matter of getting from here to there. You could just come out the starting line, do a little loop around, to the finish, done.
There was a point at the top of the hill that you didn't see where he got nudged off the track and he had to go that way because that was the only way.
He did it on 2 different times.
He got nudged twice. You don't know. You weren't there.
I saw the deviation from what I thought was the path. I did see that. I didn't get the whole cheating vibe. I got the, he's pretty smart vibe. I could see your perspective, Seth. I really can. I didn't get that vibe because I was rooting for him, so I was a bit biased.
I mean, you're talking to the guy here, me, that Cru could slap my mom, and I'd still think that was okay.
well, on the topic of moms,
Cru can do no wrong in my eyes.
On the topic of moms, Cru's mom, who never signed the waiver for him to participate, is at home ironing her clothes. Apparently, just assuming Cru is off taking his SATs, turns on the TV, and almost instantly is mentioned that Cru is at the Hell Track qualifier.
So I know that she had to find out that Cru is at the qualifying race somehow. But my thought was, would this qualifying race actually be televised? Like, I mean, I know, like, for the story, she has to find out he's there.
Yeah.
But was TV really the place? Like, is that really the way for her to find out? Like, I don't know. It's like they thought of this like days before. and was like, we'll hold a
qualifying race.
Like, he didn't even know. Like, that wasn't even part of the plan, and now it's all of a sudden televised.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
What was it, an episode of Worldwide Sports?
I don't know.
You know, where the opening where the guy falls off the ski jump.
The wide world of sports.
The triumph of victory and the agony of defeat. I always felt bad for that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was on TV. I don't know. Maybe it was just like a local channel, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It was weird.
For the story, I get it.
Yeah.
But that was the thought that came into my mind was like, who's going to televise this? Like, who's actually going to watch it?
But it does inspire her though to go to the track and basically confront Cru, who at this point has made his way in through the qualifying, and he makes a case to her and says that or she says you're throwing away your college, that's very irresponsible, and he's like, well, I was 1 in 1,000, now I'm 1 in 20, and I'm gonna be the one, and I think it'd be irresponsible for me not to, and then she's like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
She went
Is
from,
that it?
She went from Godfather to like, that's fine. Like, why didn't you just do that earlier and be like, yeah, I'll sign your form.
Yeah.
Have some conversation with your mom.
Because again, the only purpose that she could have really served in this movie was either to be dead set against him or super in favor of him. And in this moment, it was the abdication of both those options. And she's like, all right.
Yeah, she was very ambivalent about it.
And then
yeah,
we see her more in the movie, but essentially her character is done.
Right.
Yeah, it's over.
From this point, though, Cru has established himself as a potential threat to Duke. And I'm also going to just open the can of worms on Duke for a minute.
Yeah.
So it seems like, if I'm understanding this film correctly, his whole product line and the success of it is all built upon that Bart must win Hell Track.
That's the way I understand it. Yeah.
He's got millions of dollars of products ready to go with Bart's face all over him. He's got all this stuff locked and loaded. He's got all these distributorships and all these merchandisers and retailers all lined up, but only and only if Bart wins first place at Hell Track.
Right.
What kind of shitty business planning is that?
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Because what if Bart had the flu?
Yeah.
What if he caught syphilis from one of his flus? What if, he broke his leg? What if he got a flat tire? That's just just a whole lot of gambling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on. I know you clearly, as has been laid out, you're a souse and a drunk.
Yeah, he sure is. Maybe he wrote that deal while he was super hammered.
He must have
and he
been.
was like, you know what? We're going to make this all contingent on my man Bart Taylor winning this race.
Dumbass.
And then the next morning he woke up and he was like, oh, I shouldn't have wrote that. I don't know. Like, yeah, the movie's full of holes.
Yeah. Well, and so his while mulling things over about what to do, because now we've got Cru is in the mix, and
because spoiler
there might be a chance.
Spoiler alert: Cru qualified.
Yeah,
Cru
qualified.
Cru's a threat,
and so Duke's thought is like, well, I guess maybe I'll just buy him myself.
Yeah,
I'll just buy him. I'll just make him mine. I'm just gonna put him on my team.
So
what to do.
So he sends word while Cru is going to his he gets to his job at the diner.
Yeah,
that he wants to talk to him.
How would you like to be the man responsible for bringing BMX to all the small towns in the USA?
I mean, that sounds pretty enticing.
It does.
But on the flip side,
You don't understand. It's a chance of a lifetime. Don't be an idiot, kid. Think it over.
I don't have to. You and me, we don't think the same. Not at all.
There. You'll regret it, I'm telling you. You'll live. Oh, sure, you'll live.
Yeah, he's hammered.
Yeah, super hammered.
So it goes from that first clip to the second clip with no in between.
Right.
Yeah.
And it left a lot of questions like, well, what was the offer?
But you know what we had in that in between? We had a cutaway scene where Rex and Rod's big city girlfriends are going to a shop where Beaver just happens to be. And she's like looking at this blouse and she's like, I think Luke will really like this. And they have to go up and make some snotty comments about it. I think Mrs. Gray may have been in the background as well, but I could be completely wrong about that. It was a scene that added nothing into the movie other than to have a cutaway from the conversation in the car.
Yeah, like why not just show the conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't keep it a secret very long. Because the very next scene, Cru and Christian are trying to roll up into the hell track. You know, some security guy stops them and he has his little clipboard and, you know, like a bouncer at a nightclub. And he's like,
your name's not on the list.
Yeah. And they're like, well, what do you mean? He qualified. And then, you know, the little lackey, what's his name again?
Elliot.
Elliot, the freaking turd, shows up. And he informs them that
no sponsor, no racy.
No racy.
No racy. No sponsor, no racy.
Man, Elliot's
it was a new rule that was just created for the competitors at Hell Track.
Just created today.
And then he calls out and says, well, you know, this is your own fault. And
his own fault because he turned down Duke Best's offer.
Yep.
Come to find out that, you know, he was offering Cru money or a job within Mongoose, but only if he didn't win.
You know, this basically creates an opportunity or a situation that Cru and Cru have to find their way around. And the big solution is that Wesley comes up with, basically, is she creates a T-shirt and Cru is like, oh, let's
sell T-shirts. And so they create their own brand.
Rad Racing is
Rad
boring.
Racing. And there was a few things here. Why were they doing people's homework?
So they could make shirts. They didn't have time to do homework because they were making shirts.
Again, I'm just trying to make sure. So they had people who were doing other people's homework, so the people whose homework needed to be done could make shirts.
Well, the people, okay, hear me out. The people who needed their homework done were experts in shirt making.
Okay.
And the people that were good at homework, they don't know how to make shirts.
All right.
That's where the trade-off comes in.
Okay.
I'll do your homework so you can make shirts, you shirt expert.
All right.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
All right. Well, now you're right. I get it now. I get it.
I'm glad that we are on the same page.
Sorry. Jeez. So Rad Racing. It's a thing.
It is.
They have this whole sequence where all these shirts are being manufactured. Christian is checking people in, and then you see this action, and then all of a sudden, within like a few seconds later, she's over while Cru is getting, you know, measured for his racing suit, and she's checking his inseam.
Yeah, she's multifaceted. She's got all kinds of skills.
Apparently. And this is one of those also things that kind of stood out to me in this whole deal. We are now probably how many days into their relationship?
3? Maybe,
yeah. 5 tops.
3 to 5?
Pushing.
3
5's
to 4?
pushing, yeah.
I don't know.
But she and Wesley, who is Cru's younger sister,
who's 10,
yeah, are way super tight.
Well, I mean,
and that seems like an abnormal amount of closeness.
Cru and Wesley's mom's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
So maybe she just clung on to an older female who was nice to her.
Maybe. Kind of brings a bit of sadness into Wesley's character.
Poor Wesley.
She's full of angst.
Yeah.
You know, you see that through the film with her.
Yeah.
You know, picking fights and
You know,
kicking people in the shins.
Right.
True, yeah.
So,
Didn't
I mean,
even
which
think about
I
that.
think
cussing.
adds,
She's a real potty mouth.
I think, again, this
Yes,
brings back
potty
to the theory that maybe their dad just recently passed. Maybe it was a recent thing. Maybe maybe he was, big into BMX, and maybe he got hit by a truck. And maybe he was riding on top of a truck.
Maybe he fell off a truck. Yeah.
Fell off. Anyway,
maybe he was on the semi. We don't know.
And so there's some loss that this family is processing, and there's a lot of depth under the surface
that never gets explained
at all. At all.
That's a huge blank to fill in right there.
Okay.
This is almost more of a choose your own adventure kind of movie. Except for you have to make it up.
Well said. Yes.
So they have shirts. They now have Rad Racing.
They have a sponsor.
They have a sponsor.
They do.
I mean, I guess.
But wait, there's a catch.
There's a catch.
Oopsie daisies.
Oh, no racy.
Another rule change.
Yes, because they go to, they're selling their shirts. They're making their money.
Hey, mister, you gonna blab or you gonna buy?
And they're racking up the sales. They're up to 48 t-shirts sold.
Yep.
$480.
I mean, that ain't bad.
Not bad.
Not bad.
$10 for a shirt back in '86. That's steep.
That's a pricey shirt.
Yeah.
But the problem is that, the new rule has been put in place by Duke and Company that you have to, a sponsor must have at least $50,000 in sales.
That's a lot of t-shirts.
That is a lot of t-shirts.
Nothing can compete with money. I'm glad I learned that now. You got to take what you can get or you're screwed.
Right up the a-hole.
Right.
Damn the man.
Now, I'll tell you what, through what turns out to be Cru's kind of selfish rant here, Christian comes back with a retort that cuts like a knife. And she says, I thought you were a man. Ooh. Now, you know what this did? Do you know what it did?
What did it do?
It made Cru a better paperboy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it made him a paper man.
A paper man. Because he's putting the papers where they need to go.
Uh-huh.
He's making all his patrons happy.
Yep.
And he does it in record time.
He does it in record
beats
time.
The clock.
He beats the clock. And Mrs. Gray sees this. And Mrs. Gray and Mrs. What's her name from the parade with the cake in the oven go to the city council, and they're like, what the fuck?
What can we do?
What can we do? And, they get their panties in a bunch, and they get everyone riled up. Sergeant Smith, though.
My guy.
Oh, dude.
I thought I heard it all till now. I've watched these kids grow up. I've chased every one of them. I think Cru and his friends have done something special. Real special. They have given themselves hope, and all your talk about dollars is killing that hope. If someone doesn't see that Cru has this opportunity, well, I guess we'll just all have to learn to live with
it. So, okay, this is the first time that Sergeant Smith speaks in the entire movie.
Is it?
And it is. And my note here is Sergeant Smith finally speaks, and he shouldn't have, because he was terrible. But it does incite just this.
The groundswell.
Yeah. The entire town just starts giving cash.
There's this moment from this point on, it kind of basically, it becomes like that moment in Rocky where Rocky is running up the stairs, and you look behind the wide shot, and there's dozens and dozens of people running with him, and all of Philadelphia is behind Rocky,
cheering him on,
every step of the way,
He's
watching
our guy.
him punch sides of beef in the freezer. Everyone's excited. Everyone's all on board. Everyone in Cochrane is on the Cru train. And we want this to happen, but unfortunately, they're $27,000 still short.
They are.
I mean, pretty good showing for the 30 people that were there.
Yeah.
I mean, Cochrane must have a good amount of cash.
But you know who else was there?
To invest in T-shirts.
Who else was there to invest in T-shirts? Who like man,
Mr. Hand.
Yeah, I mean, really, that hard shell of like an M&M, it melted.
It did.
Sorry, I keep calling him Mr. Hand. It's Burton.
It's Burton. I know who you're talking about.
Burton Timmer was there.
Burton Timmer was there.
Well, Burton, I hear you have quite a collection of rad shirts.
That's true, Duke. $27,000 worth. And I'm going to keep every one of them. Because I got a hunch that by the end of this race, they're going to be mighty valuable. Duke, don't get left out. I'd run right over to that stand and buy as many as you can.
And my favorite part of that is afterwards he flips Duke the bird.
Oh, not just the bird, but it's like the old man skinny bony finger.
Yeah,
exactly. Real tight fist. Like everything's real compact, and that one middle finger is like real strained to get out there. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So Hell Track is on, and you mentioned before being Sergeant Smith's first line of dialogue. It wasn't his last.
Cru! You can do it. Just pretend you're in a lumberyard. Go balls out.
Go balls out. Which was going to be the title of this movie. It was originally the title of this movie.
The movie was originally titled
Balls Out.
Balls Out.
Yes.
Holy cow.
I can understand why they changed it.
Yeah.
But I have to, I want to talk about Sergeant Smith here. Last night, watching this movie, I'm on my couch. He says that, and I'm like, oh, hell yeah, Sergeant Smith. You know, you knew it when he spoke in front of the city council. He's not a bad guy.
Right.
He didn't chase those kids because those kids were in trouble.
Exactly.
He chased them for something to do, and I think he chased them to help them get better.
Oh, I know. I kind of, one of my notes somewhere in here is Sergeant Smith the most badass cop ever? I mean, not like RoboCop badass. I mean, he is just, God, he's just such a good guy.
I would want Sergeant Smith in my town.
Heck yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Like, I mean, as Cochran apparently only has one cop, but, that's fine too. I'd take him as my one cop.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Good guy.
But now we're here. It's Hell Track.
It is Hell Track. Okay, now a word about Hell Track.
Yeah.
So they designed Hell Track for this movie. They put some minds together. They built the track, and the professional BMX riders were instantly intimidated by it. It was bigger, badder, stranger, and more dangerous than anything they had ever seen.
Well, and that created some issues because they did have to, first off, drop the entry ramp.
Right. It was supposed to be 3 stories high.
Which they kept in the dialogue.
But not.
But you can clearly see that is not 3 stories.
Correct.
The other issue it had is they could not shoot the race continuously. So the cinematography team had to break it up and do chunks, which honestly would have just made more sense anyway.
Right.
I think they probably went in, especially with their the documentary background. They probably thought, okay, we'll set up a camera here, we'll set up a camera here, we'll cut up here, and we'll just have them race a few times, and we'll get all the footage we need. But no, they had to break it up and do individual setups for all the different little chunks, and they would do like just 5 pass-throughs for each time. And that race took them like a couple weeks to shoot.
I bet.
How about the cereal bowl with the spoon coming out?
Yeah, that
was interesting.
There we go, kicks again,
right?
But even in that, that was a moment. There was that one of the cereal bowl where they had to get really creative with editing because there's one point. I guess it was probably the best. And this is what was alarming to me. It had to have been the best option available because it's what made it into the film. But they had to cut it really quickly because you could tell the person who is quote unquote crew flies way out of the goddamn bowl and is not on track at all. Like if they would have let the clip like 2 seconds longer, you would have seen this guy wipe out.
Well, the spoon coming out of the bowl was only wide enough for one set of wheels.
Right. And
but
it was
then you
floppy.
had, when it was shot, you had people side by side going across the spoon.
The other thing that was interesting that I learned about was that they provided a bit of a bonus to the professional BMX riders who were in this scene, in this film. And we meet all of them,
Yeah.
Because at the beginning of Hell Track, they go one at a time and introduce all these racers. And there's over 20 racers in Hell Track. We have to meet every single one of them.
We do.
Each get their own close-up.
Yep.
And a wave.
Those professional riders were given a bonus. If you wreck, if you fall down, we'll give you an extra $500.
Okay. So in my notes here, I had that Hollywood Mike Miranda was having a really bad day.
Guy.
But Hollywood Mike Miranda was having a really good day.
Yes.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
He was falling on purpose.
Oh, he was more than happy to take some falls.
He was like Mario hitting that block that just kept spitting coins out.
Right. No kidding.
The course in general, though, had some real MXC kind of feel to it.
It did. Hell Track was insane and stupid and pretty ridiculous all at the same time.
Yeah, and it took, let me find her right here. Hell Track, 7 minutes. 8% of the total movie was spent at Hell Track.
I could have used twice as much.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
You could have used some more of Mike Miranda. Hollywood Mike Miranda.
I could
falling down.
From Team Hutch. It wouldn't have been that bad, except for, again, there was so much repetition in it. Like that little ramp that they had to with a little gap.
Yeah.
That Hollywood Mike fell off like twice.
And if you fall off, you're disqualified.
Are you disqualified?
Yeah, it said that. If they don't make that jump, they can't rejoin the race.
Oh, okay.
He did fall off of that one.
And then what was with the S curves? Why didn't they just go straight?
I don't know. That was really bizarre to see them slowly going like in that S like snake.
Yeah, that
thing.
was
It
weird.
was really. Yeah, I would have just cut down the middle. Cru is gaining ground lap by lap here, and mind you, there's only 4 laps, but it felt like 12. But he's gaining ground, and he's getting closer and closer. And wouldn't you know it, there's a little side road that he could take legally in Hell Track. Legally.
Are you sure?
It's legal.
Is it?
It's on the track. It's a backflip. Just like he practiced in the park, right?
Uh-huh.
And he lands it, and he makes up all this ground.
Why would a backflip do any better than just a standard ramp would do?
I mean, you would probably go over it the most efficient way if you're trying to catch up. But for cinematics, it looks fucking cool.
I'll give you that. I think it was put in because it was awesome.
Well,
And
they've also
tied
alluded
back
to
the
it.
backflip,
Right.
and it had to come into play sometime.
He's been trying to do this throughout the entire film. So, like, why were you trying to do this unless you're going to do it in at the end of the movie?
He'd also
in
been
Hell
doing
Track?
360s on his front wheel, but that didn't come into play into his victory.
Well, no, it's not the race. That's just doing cool shit to impress a girl named Katie and or
Christian.
Yeah. So that at that point, that's when Bart Taylor takes out his own teammates, Rod and Rex.
Yeah.
And then he also stops and waits for Cru. And I respected Bart for this.
Really?
I did. Because I felt like at this point, Bart had turned the corner. He was fed up with Duke Best bullshit. And he said, you know what? If I'm going to win this race, I'm going to win it in the right way. And I'm going to give Cru a chance to beat me if he's that good.
To me, at that moment, kind of had a little bit of Talladega Nights vibe to it, where now I can't forget the name of the character, but the French racer, goes to Ricky Bobby and is like, I want you to beat me. I've never been beaten.
Right. Yeah.
More accents.
Your French accent sounds a lot like the Mexican restaurant, which sounds a lot like the Canadian accent.
Ricky Bobby.
Well, a French accent and a Canadian accents,
that's pretty close.
in Montreal, it's going to sound very similar. I thought Bart had no intention on winning.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to make it close. But who stops in the middle of a race?
Well, I think my feeling is that he was throwing it in. He wanted to be done with Duke. He was perfectly happy with just sabotaging Mongoose as a whole. And he was going to basically put on the brakes, let Cru catch up, and at least put on a bit of a show to save his own marketability going forward.
I mean,
'Cause he's
that
a
makes
pro.
sense too, yeah.
But yeah, he didn't give a shit if he won.
No.
He would rather he didn't.
He's getting paid either way.
But he didn't want one of the douchebag Wonder Twins to win. So he was going to wait for his heir of choice to show up and actually give him a good show. But yeah, bow out at the end, but more or less.
I don't know. The way the movie ends, I beg to differ.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Because speaking of the ending, man, that came up really quick. We finished Hell Track.
And Cru wins by a nose.
I have a problem with the way that he won that. The 360 was unnecessary and could have cost him the win.
And also inefficient again.
Absolutely. For sure. That was like, it's one of those moments where you're like, what are you doing that for? Like, write it as quickly as possible.
It upped the cool factor.
It did.
But it also reminded me of that American snowboarder at the Olympics who tried to do that fancy trick at the end because she had the race in the bag and she biffed it and ended up losing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you could have lost that, Cru.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid.
That's the KISS method.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kiss and tell.
But it was cinematically awesome.
It was cinematically awesome. I loved every second of it.
And I think that's what they were going for.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it's a movie?
Yeah.
I think that's important.
The old 360 gave him the Mario Kart 2 turbo boost.
Do a flip.
Uh-huh.
Hold on a second. This is a documentary. Guys. This happened for real.
It did it?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
This isn't a movie. This isn't a film. This is a documentary. So Bart got fired from Mongoose.
Yep.
He lost his twin friends.
Uh-huh.
Were they really friends?
But he found his new crew instantly.
Yep.
Now that we're official, think we got room on the rad team?
Good idea.
Why not?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if he didn't care about crew, why would he join the crew?
Because they were having so much more fun. And he wanted to get back to his roots.
Yeah, but like, don't you think that would like make him like? That's why I think when he stopped in the race, it wasn't about like he could have just went on.
Could have been.
So
let me just, I'm going to fill in some gaps for you here.
Sure.
So Bart, when he was a child, he was enrolled in a very, very elite school of BMX racing.
All right.
There was no time for joy. There was no time for love. It was train, bike, do a flip, motherfucker, or I'll kill you. We bought you a puppy, and if you do not win this race, I'm going to murder this puppy. This guy had joy squeezed out of him by the goddamn balls. And suddenly, for the first time in his life, he's here in this moment in Cochrane, wherever the fuck that is. And he's looking at this person and he is seeing someone who is riding for joy. And he can't process it. He can't handle it. But he knows he wants to be part of it.
Did you steal a part of this from Blades of Glory?
I don't know. But this is a guy who is, there's just something about the joy and the verve that Cru and Cru have that has been absent from Bart's life. And he wants part of it. He wants in.
Yeah, I get it. That's why I think that he waited and let him have a fair shot at it.
Yeah.
I don't think he lost the race on purpose.
No.
I think Cru was just that good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's the end of the movie. That's it.
That is it.
Montage after montage, and boom, we have a hell track. Bart gets fired, says he wants to join the rad crew, and that's it. I feel like there's something missing, but that's it.
Curtain closed.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of it's for you to make up.
Okay.
We've been pretty good at that because we've had to do that the whole ride.
Hey, every time it's different.
I mean, I know I want more depth in my films than most people, but yeah, I'm just missing some stuff here. But you know what we were not missing? Montages.
Yep.
So over the course of this movie, the total runtime of this film, if you remove the ending credits and you remove the TriStar logo, at the very beginning. You have 88 minutes of runtime.
Mm-hmm.
34 minutes and 1 second were taken up by montages or some form of music video-like sequence, which accounts for 38.85% of this movie.
Damn.
Well over a third.
I went through and watched it with a stopwatch because it was just, I just wanted to know how much, and God, it was a lot. And while they don't dominate numerically, their placement and their repetition really makes them, while they are memorable, they're also really intrusive. Like there's no plot that transpires here without some form of montage attached to it.
Yeah, I agree.
In fact, in my notes, I put down, what's with all the montages? Is this Rad the Musical?
But what makes that all work, though...
Might be the first musical I've liked.
But what makes the montages work is the soundtrack. And we've talked about some of these. Send Me an Angel by Real Life.
Mm-hmm.
During the Bicycle Boogie. But we also had Break the Ice and Thunder in Your Heart by John Farnham.
Yeah.
They create a scene. It sets a tone. It sets a mood.
It creates a definite vibe. And, it's a definite mid-'80s vibe, but a vibe nonetheless.
Yeah.
At least they're consistent in that. Not so much consistent in the storytelling, but consistent in the music.
The songs were cool.
Some of the songs were cool.
I think the songs all fit, but it's kind of that time capsule kind of thing. They fit the moment. Not all of them held up over time, though.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I thought they, overall, the setting I felt for this film worked.
It did.
I know it was Alberta. I know it was Canada. I know they're trying to play it like it's the United States. And they accomplished it by basically just putting flags everywhere. But there was something beautiful about the location.
Yeah.
And there was something that I think that location that added to the idea of, oh, yeah, I could see a BMX race being here.
Yeah.
I thought the cinematography overall was good. I do, and I mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. I think that they were really trying to get their money's worth out of the stunt actors.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure. And there were some spots where I think they put so much emphasis into getting their money's worth on the montages that they kind of could have worked some more storyline in instead. I think we could have definitely learned more about Cru's dad.
Absolutely.
Or what happened there, because Cru does talk about, about how, he kind of had this moment and in fact, I got it right somewhere around here. Let's see real quick here.
Kind of reminds me of when I was like 4 years old and the first time my dad let go of that bike. It's like a whole new life. All of a sudden, it was like I was in control. I could go as fast as I wanted. It was scary, but it felt good.
And that kind of tells so much about his motivations of where he's at and what he's doing now.
Right.
But I feel like we should have learned more about the person that kind of brought him there.
Exactly. And, now we know that his dad died somewhere between his age of 4 and 17.
Yeah.
And that's all we know. There's no other good detail. And you could have erased a lot of those montages and filled in some of those backstories and those plot holes that you brought up, Brian, and you brought up, Seth, and I brought up. Like, there's so many plot holes in this thing and so many directions that it could go and how you interpret it. They could have done a lot with the script here to really tell the story and drive something home that was actually
have some depth.
Really, yeah.
Have some depth to the story.
For sure.
There was no depth to the story. I would have liked to have seen, the juxtaposition between, do I race? Do I take the SAT? I thought there should have been a more dire consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Make that decision a little bit more believable and tough. I thought they missed a chance or missed an opportunity there.
For sure.
So, yeah, I think the storytelling was a little bit weak. It just left a lot out. I don't know if it all landed on the cutting room floor, because I can't believe somebody would write a script with this many missing pages.
Right.
So that was an issue for me. One of the things I also noted was the acting was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But saying that, I did think the interaction between Cru and his younger sister, Wes, I thought they had a really good rapport with each other.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah, I noticed that too. And I thought that their interaction was probably the most dynamic acting of the entire movie.
And genuine, which is really tough because you're working with a 10-year-old.
Right.
Yeah.
And child actors don't normally have that kind of chemistry with another actor.
Right. And, was she a little over the top? Yeah, she was. But I also noticed she was a little over the top when she wasn't acting in a scene with Cru. When she was acting in a scene with him, they were just so much more fluid. And it made more sense the way they interacted together.
Yeah, I thought that dynamic was done really, really well, even though the overall acting was crap. And with this, the shot selection and the cinematography, Seth, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. There were so many stunt writers portraying other characters that when they didn't have their helmets on, and when they had their helmets on, you couldn't see their face, so you couldn't tell which actor it was, or if it was a stunt double, or if it was. So when they were writing without their helmets, there was a lot of neck down shots.
Yeah.
And then a lot of neck up shots from the true actors and not the stunt doubles. And they kind of went back and forth between them, and it became instantly obvious. Maybe they just should have had some of the BMX pros be the actors.
Yeah, for sure.
There's something we did not talk about, but I wanted to ask you guys to see if you saw the same thing. Cru runs Hell Track with a different bike than what he had the entire movie.
I did not notice.
So the entire movie, up until Hell Track, he had a bike that had blue wheels, blue tires. Hell Track comes along. He's riding a bike, and maybe at first time I didn't even notice and didn't think anything of it. And it's no longer blue tires; it's like black tires. And so I'm like kind of looking through to see when it may have happened, and I caught something. Burton. You see him at multiple points riding around town on a BMX bike.
Right.
I'm almost positive Cru ran Hell Track with Burton's bike.
No kidding.
Now, again, there may have been a scene that was explained, but given Burton's shift to being, team Cru, I think Burton, and maybe I'm again just filling in holes, I think Burton gave Cru his bike.
Interesting.
Because I also think about it. Why else would this septuagenarian be riding around town on a BMX?
Yeah.
If there wasn't going to be come in play at some point in the film, and maybe in order to fit in all these montages, they had to cut a scene. I don't know, but I feel like there was something in there that was lost.
I would love to see a rad director's cut. Like, man. And it would be like 3 hours long, and I'd go for that ride because I want to know what actually happened. Like, what was really going on? Fill in the story for me. I'm tired of filling in the story.
I tell you what, I would love for you to watch that and then just tell me about it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I would do it. I'd do that for you guys. I would. I'd take that bullet.
All right. Well, is there anything else we should talk about, or you guys want to talk about or address, or should we move on to our final thoughts?
Well, I'm ready for final thoughts, guys. I don't know about you.
Justin, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with final thoughts? Why don't you give us what you thought here?
All right. So, Rad might not be the greatest film of all time by traditional standards. The acting is awful. The plots are predictable. And yes, there's an actual BMX dance scene in a high school gym. But for me, it was everything. I watched this movie like normal kids watch Saturday morning cartoons. Then I'd hit the streets on my Franken bike and feel like the coolest kid in the world riding that thing. I didn't need a brand new GT or Haro. I had my own set of wheels, and thanks to Rad, I had a hero, Cru Jones. This movie lit a spark in me, the kind only a 5-year-old with a dirt hill ramp and a VHS tape can truly understand.
Oh.
So no, Rad isn't perfect, but it's perfect to me. It's a time capsule of BMX dreams, 80s glory, and pure adrenaline-fueled heart. And every time I hear Thunder in Your Heart, I'm back there. 5 years old, bike under me, wind in my face, thinking I could win Hell Track too.
You could. I believe in you. You can do it.
So yes, this movie, guys, it holds up to me. I'm a victim of nostalgia. I own this movie. I didn't rent, I bought years ago. I will watch it again. Probably many times over the rest of my lifetime. And still just love it every single time.
All right.
Regardless if it's awful. It means a lot to me and my baby Justin inside.
All right.
Well, thank you for kind of exposing your soul. No,
I'm
really,
glad it was his soul and not other parts.
True.
That's after the show.
But thank you for that. That was really heartfelt and really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of cringy, like little
No,
little
no,
gross, little.
It wasn't cringy because I thought it was genuine.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Brian, what's your rebuttal?
This movie is one giant slice of 1980s cheesiness. It's an underdog trope that's been recycled time and time again, and I just happen to be its latest victim. To be perfectly honest, I love this kind of shit. Why do most of us root for the underdog? Because we see ourselves in them.
Mm.
So it's more than just BMX bikes, daring stunts, or even the electric 80s vibe. It's about believing in yourself. When life sticks its version of a hell track in front of you. It's about fighting against the odds. It's about embracing what makes you different. And Rad reminds us that the greatest victories aren't the ones that we're handed, but the ones we fight for and earn. Regardless of when this movie was made, I appreciate that underdog spirit. And that spirit never goes out of style. That being said, this was a terrible movie. I will not watch it again. I will only suggest that my greatest enemies watch it. I was about a half hour in, and my 17-year-old son was in the next room, and he was peeking in on the movie. And after about that first half hour, he walked in and said, "Dad?" I said, "Yes, son." He said, "I'm sorry." I said, "For what?" "That you have to watch this." So I get the trope. I get what it was going for. And it did hit that mark. But there's so many better movies that hit that mark so much harder.
Yeah, it's all right.
That's the movie.
I don't
want to dump on it.
No,
too
dump
much,
away.
But,
Dump away.
But yeah, I thought it was a bit of a waste of time.
So whenever we watch these movies, the number one question I always ask, and we ask it throughout every episode, does it hold up? For hardcore BMX fans, yeah, it holds up. For lovers of 80s cheese, oh my God, absolutely. This movie's for you. For everyone else, though, Rad is an overlong mixtape of stunts and montages wrapped around a very thin plot. Is it rewatchable? Sure, as a curiosity. I was about 30 minutes into this movie. My wife walks in. And this is the first time we've had one of these movies we've done for the show where she sat down and she watched it. Not because it was good, but because it was really bad. And even asked, "Can we watch the rest of the movie? Because I want to catch it from the beginning because I want to see how bad it is at the start." And there's something about that. There's something endearing about a movie that is that is bad in a way. But that doesn't make it good. And as I said, I think this movie would be great for those who are just curious and are okay with just having that time capsule of really crappy 80s-ness. Rad is ridiculous, but it is unforgettable. Sadly, just not for the reasons it intended.
All right. I only have one thing to say to both of you.
Bring it.
I'm taking my Rad and I'm going home.
So, when we choose movies, we tend to go around the horn.
Yeah.
The three of us, and we kind of throw ideas out. We ask for, what do you think about this one? What do you think about that one? And, it was Justin's turn. and he was so excited about Rad, and we've done Rad. And I kind of want to propose that we never have Justin suggest another movie.
No.
Just in jest.
And I said to Justin the same thing I said to you the episode before. I love you. I trust you. And as long as we can enjoy talking about it, I will watch whatever movie you want us to watch.
Man. And you know what? I had an absolute blast talking about this movie.
Yeah.
There was so many things in it, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think it lent itself to a lot of great conversation. And I had a whole lot of fun doing this with the movie Rad. So
absolutely.
Even though I didn't like the movie, I had a lot of fun doing this.
And it was fun for me too to watch this through a different lens, because I've watched it with those rose-colored glasses every time I watch it. And today, when I watched it, I got to watch it critically, and I got to tear it apart.
Yeah.
And I got to still make fun of it. And I got to still say, like, this is not a great movie, but I love it.
Well, and
I'll never stop loving
and that's kind of that whole idea has been the kind of impetus of where this podcast came from. Because for years, we've talked about movies that we loved when we were kids, but almost intentionally were avoiding watching again as adults, because we knew on a certain level nostalgia wouldn't prop it up as much as we hoped it would.
Right. And there's going to be some scary movies.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to watch them, and I know we're going to.
Mm-hmm.
But man, is it going to ruin it?
We don't want to kill the dream.
It's going to kill
Don't want to kill the dream. But I do have to say, Justin, I thought you were fair. I thought in your comments, even though you have the history and the nostalgia behind you, I thought you did a good job being fair.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And what a neat way for us to do this show, where I'm the one who's the enthusiast and the one who's watched the movie. And
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this very special episode of the Regular Guy Movie
It'll
Show.
probably never happen
Next
again.
episode, it'll be back to the norm. We promise.
Back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Top Gun. Never seen it. No.
Well, maybe not all the way through until yesterday.
Well, a big thank you to both of you, Justin, Seth. This is a good time.
Absolutely.
Oh man, I think we got through most of the show.
For those, no, we sure didn't.
No.
I caught myself saying it so many times. For those of you who are listening, if you want to play a drinking game, please take a drink every time we say absolutely.
Yeah. Let's remember that for the next episode. You will be soused.
Make it 10 minutes if you dare.
Yeah. Cut your drink with water, because and schedule in some bathroom breaks, because we absolutely say absolutely.
Oh, absolutely
way too much.
Absolutely. And that, my friends, is absolutely a wrap on this episode of the Regular Guy Movie Show. We've broken it down, debated the highs and lows, and now it is your turn. Do you think this movie still holds up? Would you watch it today? Would you?
Lord, I hope not. Save your sanity.
Really? Feel free to leave a comment and add your 2 cents to the conversation. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And if you have a movie you want us to cover, let us know. In fact, you can head on over to regularguymovieshow.com and click the Suggest a Movie link. We might just talk about your suggestion in future episodes. And while you're there, check out our blog and listen to our past episodes. You can also follow us on the socials. Look for the links in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us, and as always, be kind, rewind.
The Regular Guy movie show talking flicks. Here we go!
I also think this movie would be great for a drinking game.
Well, you can't drink during all the montages because you'd never get off the floor.
It's a continuous chug.
What would be your drinking game with Rad?
Well, I think anytime the word rad or any variation of radical, that's a drink.
Okay. How about any stunt that defies the laws of physics?
Oh, me be hammered
in the first 10 minutes.
I do think anytime a flip, a complete head over heels flip, that's a drink.
All right. I mean, if you want to like really get drunk, anytime there's a awkward interchange,
visible nipple, nipple protrusion, that's a drink. God damn, there were a lot of nipples in this movie.
You know, it was shot in Alberta, Canada, and it must have been cold.
Picked a bad time of year to go ass slide.
Yeah, I mean,
was 1986 absent of brassieres?
I mean, we had a full-on assault of neon, crop tops, tuck tees, spandex, and not apparently a single padded brassiere in the mix.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird for noticing.
I mean, are you noticing or are you complaining?
Just noticing.
Okay.
Just noticing.
I was 11 years old in 1986, and I don't remember seeing that many protrusions walking around.
Oh, I for sure didn't.
Everywhere.
When I saw it.
Yeah.
When I was a younger lad.
I mean, even in normal day, you know, going to the mall or walking through the park or wherever I'd be, it wasn't a nipple fest.
So this was intentional.
But it was in this movie. I should have kept, instead of a stopwatch for the montages, you should have kept a counter.
Got a little clicker.
A little clicker counter on.
All right, I'll remember that for next time.
All right.